Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Well, hello, and welcome back to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and today we have a very special guest. His name is John Solleder, and John is going to bring a perspective to this show that I think is really important. We talk a lot about ideas, and we talk a lot about products and services that are designed to bring people and find their best life and health. But so many times, and I'm a victim, or I'm not a victim, but I'm definitely a demonstration of that, where we generate these beautiful products, create these great ideas, personally experience transformative processes, and have no way to get it to the public. And I've had many failed attempts at things for that reason. And so, John, welcome to the show. I'm very interested in hearing some of your ideas. You've got an interesting background, and from martial arts to Russian wrestling, bench press competitions. I mean, you've got a wide range of experience that brings you to this. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, first of all, Joe, thanks for the invitation and welcome everybody. Nice to be here. But yeah, I mean, I was always involved in athletics growing up. I was a kid, though, that had physical problems. I was born knock-kneed and pigeon-toed, so I had to wear braces till I was 8 years old on my legs at night, and it straightened it out somewhat, not completely. And I found out by playing high school football, I got clipped in the back, that I had a spinal disease called spondylolisthesis, where I know we're not on video, Joe, but you can see this, where your hands, if you put your fingers together,
yeah,
basically my spine was the nerves of my spine on my right side were all wrapped up.
Oh no.
And caused me to have spinal surgery at age 17, very, very serious.
Wow.
I
Young
knew
age for that.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was serious, but my parents knew it was more serious. I could have died from it. I could have had 80% paralysis. Didn't know that till afterwards. Sometimes what you don't know is good.
Oh, tell me about it.
But then I spent a couple of years because I couldn't play football anymore. I spent a couple of years goofing off. Got into drinking. Never got into drugs. Fortunately, I was lucky in that respect.
Good for you.
Never smoked. Always hated it. So yeah, I tried it like everybody did and said, I don't want to do that. On my 20th birthday, I looked at my dad, who had been an alcoholic earlier in his life. He had given it up, fortunately, through the grace of God and AA. But he was dying at about age 55, 56, and had nothing but health problems. And at age 20, I said, I'm going to stop drinking. And I really got focused on my health because a short time later, I got introduced to my first business venture by a friend of mine who I had wrestled with in high school, and happened to be with a health and nutrition line of marketing, which I knew nothing about, by the way. I was still in college. I was just like, I'll give you $32 and I'll join your business and see what happens. And the very first month, I made about $800.
Wow.
Before I graduated college. And that was in 83, Joe. You remember this?
Probably. Oh, yeah, I do. I was making $3.35 an hour for minimum wage.
$800 for a college kid was huge money.
Heck,
and of course, those days, everybody paid cash or a personal check. It wasn't like today with a credit card. So you made $800, you had $800 in your pocket.
Yeah.
And that got me aware of herbs. I had never really knew a whole lot about herbs before, but my very first business venture was with a company that sold an herbal line. So that, told me about things I had never heard about before, wasn't aware of, and started to take some herbal products. That business, unfortunately, had some problems with the FDA about a year and a half into me being with it. But I stayed on my health course. I got out of the business for a while, the direct selling business, went into life insurance business. But I always liked it. And then I got introduced to a water treatment product, and I became the top salesperson for that. I actually moved to Canada from New Jersey. during that period of time and developed a business with that company. And then after that, I wound up helping to develop another company that had an herbal line where we brought in a doctor who was a herbal pharmacognosist. And for those of you not familiar with the term, that's the study of herbs. And this gentleman had both educations. He had the Western education in pharmacy at University of Michigan, but he had the pharmacognosy degree from National Taiwan University. So he kind of had the best of both worlds. And I was back kind of in the herbal space, marketing an herbal product. And just some strange things happened. I wound up down here in Dallas helping a sports nutrition company to grow. And I worked with people from the Moscow Sports Institute on bringing creatine into the United States in a big way, and mumio, which was an herb. So I was kind of involved with that. And in terms of product development, helped to develop some products, not from a scientific standpoint. I'm not qualified to do that, but from a strategy standpoint. What did people need, for example?
Okay.
And probably the first direct selling energy drink product that really was successful, I was actually the guy that named it, believe it or not.
Okay.
It's out there. It's not a direct selling company anymore, but the product's still out there, used by a lot of professional athletes as well as
Nice.
weekend warriors. But what really happened was kind of strange. In 1996, I was pretty burnt out. I went over to Israel to visit a friend of mine and just kind of see the world a little bit. And while I was over there, my sister called and told me that my mother had developed cancer.
Oh, no.
I needed to come home to, see how it was going to turn out. It didn't sound promising. Let's put it that way.
It never does.
Yeah, no, exactly. I didn't use that C word. It's a bad word. It should be a swear word, frankly. But anyway, I came back, and my mother was a stage 2 breast cancer patient at that point.
Okay.
I was leaving the doctor's office after the last, sets of tests, and they turned into a human pincushion.
Oh, yeah.
I said to the doctor, I said, "Doc, is there something that she can take?" Now I've been around herbs for years. I've been around vitamins for years. I've been an athlete for years. I've taken God knows how much money I've spent on supplements, right?
Right.
Performance,
Easy to do.
recovery, and all that. And ironically, the doctor said, "Yeah." She said, "I have a friend who is a professor at McGill and a researcher." And she mentioned the guy's name. He had a crazy name, Gustavo Bunos, which now I know is yeah, right.
I
And
thought Crumbine was tough.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Solleder's not easy. I get all kinds of crazy spellings of that. But lo and behold, I started to buy this particular product, which was a glutathione precursor.
Uh-huh.
And that was in late 96, early 97. And next thing I know, I find out that they're selling it direct sales. Well, that's, what I've been doing for about 13 years at that time,
Right.
very successfully. I had launched some companies and products and had all this experience. And little tiny company in Montreal, Canada, that was going to market this product. And frankly, they had no idea how they were going to market it. But they were business people, and more importantly, the product was the product of research. It had been researched since 1975. It turns out that this Dr. Gustavo Bunos and this other doctor, Dr. Patricia Kongshaven, started to collaborate on something for the human immune system. By 78, they published the very first peer-reviewed paper, and some interesting things happened. And
Could I stop you for a second there? I don't mean to derail, but this is important because in the world of supplements and herbs, it's a double-edged sword, and I am in that world, and I believe very strongly in it. I have a lot of personal experience, but the problem is there's a lot of unscrupulous people that take advantage of the lack of regulations and the standardization and the actual research. So many times somebody will create a study that's limited in scope and looking for confirmation bias, and they'll publish anything and say, "Hey, look, this doctor said this doctor said that." But to actually get a peer-reviewed paper of any type, and to remain in a larger scope of research, that is very important. And I just wanted the listeners to hear that part.
Yeah, well, and you're absolutely right, because if I'll deviate for a minute from the story on that particular product. but always ask people who paid for the research.
Right.
Because
100%.
that's going to tell you what the outcome is going to be. And unfortunately, scientists, they got bills to pay too. So unfortunately, they're influenced by it. And if it's paid by Coke, Pepsi, Kraft, or anybody else, you probably shouldn't take it.
Exactly. That's great advice.
And that that list is probably longer than those companies, frankly. But
Sure.
or by the way, by industry lobbying groups, that's a whole another group of people. But anyway, I got involved, and I had no idea what glutathione was. I had no idea it's in every cell in our body. But I started to get educated on it. I started to get to know the two key researchers. And what happened between 78 and 96 was that product got picked up by other researchers, two of which were really influential people. One was Dr. Luc Montagnier. And Joe, you might remember his name, or your listeners might, during the whole COVID thing. He was one of the docs that came out. He ran the Pasteur Institute in Paris. He came out and said, do not take it. It's going to morph. Well, for better or worse, he's right. I didn't take it, not only because of his advice. I wasn't going to take it anyway, but
right there with you. I didn't
either. Anyhow, so Montagnier was doing research on the HIV virus, and he started to use our product with some very good results with a family where the father had impregnated the mother and given her the HIV virus. And of course, the baby that they conceived was born with it, and used this particular product in research with them. That research study became part of a book, a medical textbook still used in academia. And that particular book is on oxidative stress in treating cancer and HIV. And Montagnier was, huge name, won the Nobel Prize for the discovery of HIV, along with Dr. Gallo from the U.S. And then another doctor up at the German National Cancer Institute in Heidelberg, Germany, a fellow by the name of Dr. Wolf Droge. He liked our product, but he said if you added some other things to it, anti-inflammatories, it would have some better results for older people over the age of 40.
Okay.
At the time that I qualified as an older person at the young scale. Now I'm like, I don't know what happened. All these years went by.
Oh man, happens so quickly.
But Droge was a guy, Joe, that was really interesting in the respect that he was a Max Planck fellow. And if you're not familiar with Max Planck, folks, Max Planck was Albert Einstein's mentor.
Absolutely.
And over in Germany, the Max Planck Institute is considered to be one of the two leading institutes in the world of scientific achievement. Most of the physicists in the world have had some association with it.
If you don't know his name, you're probably not involved in science at all.
Exactly. And if you're not familiar with it, just Google it and you'll see some of the other Max Planck fellows. But this guy, Droge, was a Max Planck fellow. He was peer-reviewed, published over 300 times. So he used our product, and he actually wound up taking some of what he added to it in his research and developing a product for us.
Nice.
With our original product with these extra components in it. So it's a very interesting story, but we always went with the peer review. We never went with, just, hey, we say this or we say that, which was very, very unique because we are a direct selling company, by the way.
Right.
1996, the guys that were putting up the money for the research said, well, okay, at the end of the day, you can only put up money for so long. At some point, you got to sell something, and
right.
Researchers need to eat, investors need to eat, and that's kind of where I got involved. Was late '96, early '97. Like I said, my mom started using the product with very good results. By the way, she started at 69, she passed away at 92. So the product certainly helped her through the years. I started to take the product myself. I was 35. I'll be 64 next month. With great results. My sister, who's a doctor in New York, she's continues to take the product, et cetera, and we built a big business with it.
Nice.
But realistically, look, research leaves clues, and the fact that we were peer reviewed has resulted now in 91 patents on this product.
Wow, impressive.
And what we found with glutathione too that's really interesting is, when we started, it was purely immune, the serious stuff of immunity, cancer and HIV, right? The two things that are still, very much big problems, as you well know. But what we started to find were things like TBIs, that there was a benefit from increasing glutathione. Now, you wouldn't think that, right? Like, how does a brain injury have anything to do with it? Well, we started to do research with the folks at the Eleanor Roosevelt Center out at the University of Denver with a doctor out there and started to find some interesting things with that. And then, of course, athletic performance in terms of recovery, for example, we started to find things with that. So, getting your glutathione level up is hugely beneficial. And, that's like what I do for a living. You can contact me at johnsolleder.com, SOLLEDER.com. If you have interest in the product, I can certainly tell you more about it and get you on it if you so desire. And send you a lot of information. In addition to that, my health journey, because I had this problem early on with my health, as I said, with this surgery early on, I got very devoted to my health. And it's interesting, Joe, and you can relate to this in your own journey, and I'm sure your listeners can, because we're all on a journey. I mean, it's.
Oh yeah. If you're not, you're. I don't know what you're doing.
Exactly. And so, I mean, what do I do today? Okay, as a 64-year-old guy. Well, during COVID, I actually fell in my pool one day. Not proud of that, by the way. I was walking around with one of my dogs. I fell in the pool. I live in Dallas, so it's not like, I'm in,
Hopefully it was in the summertime.
Yeah, but it was cold. And the water had actually frozen in the pool and defrosted.
Oh, wow.
I was chasing the dog and I slipped and I fell in, thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get sick. I got out and I felt, wow, I felt terrific. And it's funny how things happen, right? I believe in God, so I believe it's divine, okay? But if you believe in Mother Nature, or you believe in the universe, or whatever you believe in, I think that old adage, right? When the student is ready, the teacher shows up.
100%. 100%.
I'm watching TV, and I don't even watch TV that often. I'm watching TV. I'm watching Brian Gumbel, whose show isn't even on anymore. And he's talking about our next guest is this crazy guy who climbs mountains in his shorts in the middle of winter.
Off,
right? And I'm like, oh, and I find out there's this whole group of people out there around the world following Wim, and I became a Wim guy. I'm a big fan of Wim. Some people aren't, but I think Wim's a great guy, and I learned a lot from him. But
he walks his walk, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. I became a cold dipper every single day. Haven't missed a day now in about let's see, that was 2020. So whatever it is, 5 years. Wherever I go, I was just in Costa Rica. Took super cold showers every single day. But at home, I use my pool during the colder months, and I've got an indoor, believe it or not, like a hunter's refrigerator that I use during the warmer months, which is now getting warm down here. So I literally just turned that on this morning to get it frozen, and I defrost it and I go in there.
Sure.
From a diet standpoint, because I had been an athlete, but I also had multiple injuries to my hips, my shoulders, etc. I wound up gaining a bunch of weight over the years. And 8 years ago, I was over 300 pounds. I am 6'3", by the way, so I'm not a little guy, but
still 300 pounds for a non-performing athlete is probably a little extreme for most people.
It is. And I was getting up there in years, and I was sitting in a restaurant here having a 4-cheese burger, French fries, and a milkshake. And I'm thinking, this probably isn't good for my heart. And it's not good for your heart, but it tasted good.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? Tomorrow, it was a Friday night. Tomorrow, I'm going to just take one day and go veg just for one day. I'm not going to eat any meat products on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that on a Saturday. It was 8 years ago. I did that on a Saturday. I woke up on Sunday, and I felt a little better. Just my inflammation felt better.
That quickly, one day.
And I said, okay, well, I did Saturday. I'll do Sunday too. No big deal. I'm home now. I'm not running the streets doing anything. I got up, went to church, came back to the house, and I'm like, I'll eat. I'll just eat other stuff today. And I did. And then, once again, that whole thing, about the teacher and the student. I'm at the gym a couple days later, and I'm walking on the treadmill, and just like I found out about Wim, I'm watching a talk show. And I forget the girl's name. She used to be on Fox, and she had a big argument with Donald Trump, and they fired her. And Megan Kelly.
Okay.
She had a talk show, and I don't even know if it's still on anymore, but they had it on at the gym. So I'm watching this thing, And these three obese guys are shown. And all of a sudden they walk through one of those things that, like you walk through like at a high school football game where like they break through and the team comes
Right,
through.
right.
Here comes these three obese guys who are no longer obese. They both, all three of them look terrific.
Nice.
And they talked about the fact they had started a running club in Louisiana where they live. And I think two of them are cousins and one was related another way. But anyway, these three guys had obviously transformed themselves with diet and exercise, and they're talking, and I can't hear it, but it's got the teleprompter thing going, so you can read it. And the one guy starts talking about a documentary called Forks Over Knives. Huh? Never heard of that. Came home, said to the wife, I said, hey, on Netflix, can we get this? I said it opposite. I said, we have the knives over forks. And she's like, that doesn't sound right. Let me Google it. And she did. And, Forks Over Knives. And we watched it that night, Joe. And I heard Dr. Esselstyn talk about the study that was done in Norway during the Second World War, where the Norwegians were basically forced to give their livestock to the Germans.
Okay.
The Germans said, well, you can feed your family with the root vegetables, but we get the chickens and the pigs and the cows. You continue to farm that, and you can eat what you can grow, which they did. Well, what's interesting is that there's a corollary that Dr. Esselstyn talks about, where the cancer rates and heart disease rates in Norway were about the same as the U.S. at that point. During that span of World War II, they dropped dramatically in Norway.
Okay.
Because they're eating, what are they eating? They're eating radishes, carrots, beets, they're eating root vegetables. 1945, of course, we show up, kick the Germans back to Germany, and they go back to eating that stuff. Well, within a year, the rates are back up to the same as the United States. And, that one study alone told me I was on the right path. And I became a big fan of Caldwell Esselstyn, of course, and still am. Still an amazing guy, 91 years old, still giving lectures all over the world. But, once again, it was like the information was there. And I guess one of the points, if you're listening to this and you're saying, okay, where's this guy going? The information's out there, folks, for you to improve your health. Bottom line. Okay. The stuff we're talking about and the stuff that Joe's other people, because I'm a fan of your show, Joe, the stuff that all the other guys have talked about on your show, including our mutual friend, Dr. Rothschild, with red light therapy. This is
yeah, absolutely. He did a great interview just recently.
Yeah, matter of fact, here's people can't see this, but there's his book. I've done a whole book tour with him on his book. This stuff's not crazy. This stuff's got lots and lots and lots of research and evidence-based science to support what we're talking about. The other couple of things that I do, by the way, I became raw vegan a year ago, January. That was kind of the next step in my transition. And I can't say I'm 100%. I'm about 95%. Occasionally I have some cooked vegetables. But that was another game changer, was really dramatically eating lots and lots and lots of primarily fruit, some vegetables every single day. I just got back from Costa Rica. I spent 8 days basically doing a all fruit cleanse with some other people down in Costa Rica. Fabulous experience. Water fasting is something else that I've become an advocate of. Once again,
absolutely.
I study the guys up from North, Dr. Goldhammer, and I also forget the other doctor's name up there, but I did a 10-day water fast during Thanksgiving 2020. And I said, let me skip the biggest eating holiday of the year. So I'm down in Austin, Texas at this retired chiropractor's house. And by the way, I do suggest medical supervision, certainly, if you're going to do a water fast.
Absolutely.
And anyway, so I'm down there and I skipped Thanksgiving. Boy, oh boy, it set off, some great things for me health-wise. Last June, coming up here very soon, I did a 21-day, once again, supervised. And I did do that at home, but I was medically supervised. I was paying somebody to medically supervise me. And great results, not only with weight, but more than that, how I felt afterwards, and just kind of a constant reset with the autophagy and everything else. So these are all things that, you may or may not be interested in doing, folks, but they're working for me. The other thing I'm a huge advocate of is exercise. Before this call, I was at the gym 6 a.m. this morning. I'm an early riser, and it's like, the sooner I get to the gym, the better to, get it out of the way. But as we age, resistance training has been shown to be that much more important even than when you were an athlete. When I was a competitive athlete, and I still am to some degree. I don't play judo anymore because of my age and my health. I still do a little bit of powerlifting, and occasionally I get crazy and I go to a track meet and throw the shot put.
Nice.
Not all that well, but it's a great community of guys, so I kind of do it to be.
You know what though? It's not ever about how well you do, it's that you do. And progression can be as minuscule as you can think, from I did it one more time to I did one more rep to I did one more pound or one more foot or one more anything. I can't implore people to consider that in their journey, because people say, oh, I've plateaued, I'm not getting anywhere, it's not working. And you got to look at what are you measuring against, and what's the lens you're looking through. And I think it's really important to keep people moving forward regardless of what they're doing.
Yeah, and it's participation. At this stage of my life, it's like I don't need another medal if I get one when I go to something great, but that's not
Right.
my motivation. My motivation is I enjoy the people, and
Yes.
it gives me a reason to train. It gives me a reason to be consistent in my training. But just mentioning the resistance training, I find it's more important now. And once again, there's a lot of evidence-based science to support this, that you lift weights of some degree. And that doesn't mean you're in there benching 500 and squatting 800. It means that you're doing something.
Right.
I tell people all the time, too, that, they think, well, I've got to belong to a fancy gym. And maybe I live in a rural area and there's not one, within 20 miles, and it's just not convenient. Build your own gym either in your garage, or if you can't do that for whatever reason, there's nothing wrong with assembling really discarded things. And I'll give you an example. I've picked up at construction sites like cinder blocks that construction companies like don't need anymore. They use them for whatever, and they don't need them.
Sure.
I throw them in the back of my old Chevy Silverado, and I built a gym in the corner of my where I park my car in the back of my house, my good car. And I got a little gym back there. And sometimes I'll just go out there at night for 10 or 15 minutes, do some curls, do some farmer's walks, move my body.
Right.
So you don't have to have it, you don't have to have the multi-million-dollar exercise equipment.
You can always drop down and do some push-ups, burpees, sit-ups. I mean, any resistance training is going to be helpful.
Pick up some rocks.
Yeah.
Once again, I've gone through construction jobs, where they're discarding, rocks and things, different sizes. And I've got an old truck, basically. I throw them in the back of, and then I put them in the corner of the where we park our cars. And but once again, do that. I've got a friend, Scott Erickson. He's best 60-plus-year-old shot putter in the world. And Scott has an expression that he uses called micro exercising. And he's an engineer, so he sits a lot. He's on the computer all day working, and he'll just say, hey, 5 to 10 minute micro workouts during the day. You might get 3 or 4 of them. Do something, right? Get some resistance bands. Get it all. Get something you can pull on, push on, just to move your body and get that synovial fluid going. So that applies to younger people too, but I'm talking more to guys, in my age group and women in my age group. It's just so important to continue to move the body, stretch it, and challenge it. Your body's meant to be challenged. So if you don't challenge it, it goes to sleep on you.
I couldn't agree more.
Those are some of the things that I'm doing. I'm using methylene blue. I finally broke down and bought some last month, but I can't tell you good, bad, or indifferent.
I've played a little bit with that. It makes your pee green.
Yeah, it is a little strange. It's a strange substance, strange history to it. So I can't tell everybody go take it because I can't tell you any results with it.
Right.
But the main thing is diet. I go back to what Jack LaLanne said many years ago, right? That diet is king, exercise queen. You put them together, you build a kingdom. And those two things I think are vitally important for our longevity and our health. And look, we're not going to live forever. I'm not naive. I know, we get out of here in a box or an urn. That's just reality. But it's how we get there.
Exactly.
how do we stave that off as long as we can, and do it where we have quality of life, where we can enjoy our life, our loved ones, our I'm a dog guy. I got 4 dogs that I love their company. It's like I want to be here for them for the rest of their lives. They're
I
all
hear you.
young dogs. So got a couple of them are small dogs where they're going to live, 15, 20 years. So, there's a lot of good reasons to take good care of yourself and do the best you can. And there's no guarantees, but if you do some of these things, some of these practices, you're going to probably find that the outcome is going to be very favorable.
I agree. Well, John, we're getting a little tight on time. I want to make sure that you've got time to, really give, if you've got a 20-second elevator pitch that you wanted to share with anybody, and of course, how people can get a hold of you and find out the rest of your information.
Sure. It's real simple. Probably the best bet is just go to johnsolleder.com, John and my last name, SOLLEDER.com. And you also can listen to our podcast, okay, which is called leavingnothingtochance.com. We've got our own podcast now that we've been doing for about 5 years. And
Excellent.
some's on health, some's on business, some is on other subjects from time to time. But you might want to check that out. And if you're interested in our product, our glutathione product, I could certainly send you the 91 studies. You don't have to read them all.
I would love to see that.
But once again, evidence-based science, and there's so much out there that you can do for yourself. And I wish everybody well and appreciate you listening.
Fantastic. Well, I agree with much of what you say and live by a lot of those premises. And you hear these things recurring in the show. And John, thank you so much for joining us. And I look forward to maybe continuing this conversation in the future.
I'd love to have you as a guest on our show too. So we'll send you a
Glad to. Anytime. Well, thank you very much to all the listeners that have supported the show. This has been the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and we will see you next time.
This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. We produce this show so that people can share their stories, people that have overcome obstacles, people that are undergoing obstacles. We're building a community of health-minded individuals. If you're interested in supporting the show, please leave a review on the platform you're listening to it on. If you're interested in becoming a guest, please send an email to itsjoegrumbine@gmail.com, or you can send a note into the notes section of the podcast. All right. Well, thank you for supporting this show, and we hope you've enjoyed it.